Hi, my name is Ralf Reichert. I'm co-CEO and co-founder of ESL, which has been there since day one of esports. I mean, there's a few things, right? I think if you read any entrepreneurial book, timing is everything. And there we were actually incredibly stubborn, unlucky, and persistent. Because if I would do this again, we would probably start 10 years later, right? The first 10 years, 2010, video games and esports really were at this tipping point. So starting around that time would have probably been the right thing. Starting in 2000 with ESL was actually calculated suicide looking back. And it's really because the founding team was so convinced and so special in terms of the people involved that we survived those 10 years. I think that is number one. I think point number two, because even though we were ahead of our time with the business idea, we acted how the time was right. What does it mean? Timing in terms of we didn't try to fill a stadium in 2002, 3 or 4. Actually, people tried to do that and kind of failed, right? Their business went away because they tried too early, too big. We waited until the time was right. We really focused in the early days on online competitions just because they were more scalable. They were the better business model at that time. Other companies tried to go full event live experiences back at that time. So they didn't really address it. We went international very quickly, right? We came out of Germany, we were Germany focused, but internationalized it quickly. And there's lots of those touch points and beats when Twitch was still just in TV. So before it was a gaming platform, we went to San Francisco, met with them and worked with them, and were a very, very strong partner from day one. It's all of those stories which add up to something, but they're all based on, I think, a mix of lucky, right? Without luck, you don't need to start. The right people with the right mindset, relentless hard work, but ultimately a little bit of humbleness to wait for the right moment to do the right thing. Last but not least, probably always a long-term focus. That's why we still have these long-lasting relationships with companies and with people all across the world. We started this and we had kind of, when we talked about it, two reasons, maybe three reasons why. I mean, number one, we believe this is going to be a spectator sport. This is going to be something which people would cheer for like in any other sport. That was kind of the business idea around it. And I think then there was always a social thing that, because we were like this first generation of gamers, the first people who grew up with games and what later become esports, we saw that the society, that press, that politics would always look down on people playing video games, really treating them like aliens, right? And so we wanted to really build an infrastructure where these players, these young kids, which are actually need a place to express themselves, to get recognition, that they're going to find it with ESL. So that we are actually going to be there promoting players to become stars, and ultimately to build an infrastructure and a platform for them to make money on. So it was very focused around the player. Look, it took us probably 10 years longer than we thought it would take, right? So what we expected to happen early 2000s probably happened 2010, 11, 12, 13, and later on 14 when we started to fill stadiums. But the general idea was always for the players to build a platform that people can watch. And then a little bit like a media business back in those days, we could monetize and actually pay the bills for. As we all know, right, shut down a lot of, actually most of the sports, a lot of businesses generally, and interrupted a lot of logistics. At ESL, I don't think missed more than 1 day of broadcast. Because we literally changed from a model where we said, hey, we need to be producing Pro League, which is our Champions League, next week in Malta, and get a call and say, we're closing borders tonight, to redirect everything, to do the right logistics, to be agile and produce it actually from here in Cologne the Monday after, right? So with 3 or 4 days preparation. I think we just went through and thought, look, We're here to be a platform for the players and the fans. And we're not going to let them down. So we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that these players can play and that the fans outside can watch. So very much narrow-minded, making sure that the product continues to deliver, while parallel negotiating with our media partners, TV channels, sponsors to stay on board and say, we're not doing an event, but it's going to be as good of a show. So that was kind of phase one, I'd say, in March, right? Where we had to dodge a lot of stones being thrown in our way, like every business. And most of the other companies in the space took a few weeks to adapt, some even a few months. Yeah, as I said, it took us 4 days. So the team did a tremendous job on that. I think after that we came to phase two and said what does it mean, right? This is gonna not go away in a week or two. So we swapped around our model. We basically made sure that everyone can work from home, or had that before actually, but that we can produce tournaments and competitions from home, including the content, including the player being home. So that became actually the new standard. So we turned around our execution model, so to speak, not on a temporary, but let's say it on a more consistent basis. And funnily, if you think about it, we went back to where we came from. Right, in 2000, we created most of our competitions online. We created most of the stuff from home. So it was kind of a, back to the future thing. We did, and I think then actually the step three is actually to up the quality, which probably in fall started, where we do NPS research across every competition we do about every content piece. And we're actually back to pre-COVID numbers. Means, the fan at home has this same level of experience and it had when it was looking at a full stadium. So I think that is a one part of what we're really doing as a tournament organizer globally. I think number two, because obviously the pandemic has some advantages, it has digitalization advanced, so we changed all of our internal processes to be future-proof now in the speed that we would never have done, right? We changed and heavily invested in online platforms, so to actually be less event dependent than we had in the future, but have better experiences and play opportunities and engagement opportunities for all the esports players and fans online, which again goes back a little bit to where we started. So long story short, while COVID is not a good thing at all for the whole world, including us, we immediately adapted, bounced back really fast, and totally get stronger out of this than we have before. It gave us a chance to reset some things, which usually takes much longer. It's really about sports games and sports simulation, right? We have its own division with DreamHack Sports Games, which works with a lot of the football leagues out there. We work with the Bundesliga on the virtual Bundesliga. We work with FIFA and the IOC on their digital programs. So we really believe that there's something in traditional sports now, taking the simulation side serious, trying to build real ecosystems and a real sport out of it, rather than, which in the beginning most people have treated this more as a marketing tool. And point number three, it's about regions. We have worked in lots of regions in the world, but there's still a consistent infrastructure missing in so many places where you consistently worked and tried to establish esports as one of the largest sports in the world and in that local region. So there's a lot of work for us to still being done of those things. So all of those three kind of approaches we're doing at the same time, because they're fueling each other, right? The better product bases, the better DreamHacks, the better Intel Extreme Masters we have, the more games we can actually apply to it. And the more esports is relevant in all those regions, we will have more local stars, we have more viewership, we have more celebrities, which then actually gonna, again, fuel those large competitions.